Okay, welcome back to Mr. Peterson's Math 31. This is notes for section 8.1, and we're going to learn quite a bit of introductory geometry here, having to do with lines and angles, first of all. Okay, the first vocabulary word we're going to learn is a point, and a point is just a location. It doesn't have width or height or area, so we usually represent it with just a little dot. And sometimes the dot is actually shown if it's by itself, but other times it's implied if you have two lines crossing and you label it the point where they cross. You don't have a dot there, but you know that they cross at a specific location. Now, when you label a point, you always want to use an uppercase letter, and it can be any letter of the alphabet. I use point P here, but always uppercase. Okay, then we can have a line, which is infinite number of points that stretch off in both directions. The fact that this goes forever in both directions is indicated with these arrowheads on the end of the line. And the idea here, at least in this type of geometry, is that it's a straight line. It won't curve. Okay, so first of all, how do you name a line? Well, one way to do it is to actually write out line and then use a lowercase letter like K or maybe L or J. Very common J, K, and L lines, but you have to actually write the word line and then use a lowercase letter. Now, the more common way to indicate lines is to write down any 2 points that are on the line that have labels. So we've got 3 choices here. And then to draw a little line above those like that. So this is line MN. Another way to name this exact same line is the line that goes through N and M. And you could even do M and Q. Now, if you turn the letters around, it doesn't make any difference. It's the same line whether you say MQ or QM. Now, what you don't want to use is more than 2 letters. So MNQ, line MNQ, that's incorrect. You just use 2 letters, and they indicate points that are on the line, both of them. Now, the difference between a line and a segment is a line goes forever in both directions, and a segment has a starting point and an ending point. So let me highlight the segments that you see in this little diagram. For example, 3, you got a little short segment right there. We would call that segment WR. And then you got a longer one here, which would be RQ or segment QR. And then you got the whole segment that starts at W and goes all the way to Q. So let me show you how to label these. Very similar to what we did with lines. You just pick 2 points that are on the line and draw a segment above it. So segment WR, let me highlight that one. That's that little line segment there. And the next one is RQ. That's the medium length segment that's showing on this diagram. That's that one right there, RQ. You could just as easily call that segment QR. And then finally, we could call it segment WQ or segment QW. Now, let me show you what you can't do. You can't use 3 letters here. So that long segment, let me highlight the one I'm looking at here. That segment right there, you wouldn't say segment, this will be wrong here, WRQ with a segment bar above it would be the wrong way to do that one. Okay. Moving on past this, we're going to look at array. And array has a starting point but no ending point. If you think, for instance, of rays of light that emanate from the sun, they all start on the surface of the sun, or actually below the surface of the sun if you want to get technical. But they start at the sun and go outwards infinitely in all different directions. But one ray of light will go in one direction. Okay? And again, I'm not teaching physics. That actually is not true. They bend. All right, so here we go. We're going to look at how to first of all, I want you to picture a ray. So I'm going to highlight ray QR. It starts at Q, goes through R, forever in one direction. Now, if you want a different ray, you can start at R and go through W and go forever. But if it starts at the same spot, for instance, Q going through R, and I'll change colors here, but it'll be the same ray, Q going through W, those are the same ray. Okay, so let me uncover the different ways of showing you how to label them. The first thing you want to do is name the starting point first. So the first one I'm going to look at here is ray QR, and I'll use my pointer, or I'll use my highlighter to show you that one. Ray QR starts at Q, goes in the direction of R forever. That's what's meant by that. Okay. The next possibility here is ray QW, and I'll be tracing the exact same path. Start at Q, go in the right direction of W. You may notice that I just passed R, and you're going forever that way. So that's the exact same highlighting I did a second ago. So QR, ray QR, and ray QW are the same ray. All right, if we uncover another possible one here, we're going to say ray RW, and that ray is actually not the same as the other two. There's ray RW, starts at R, goes in the direction of W forever, and you're going to see here ray QW. Those aren't the same path. Specifically, this little section right there. I got to change the size of that pen. That's ridiculous. Okay, so specifically that section right there is colored pink, but not pink and blue. All right, remember that when you name a ray, you have to put a ray on top, and the first letter you put down is always the starting point of the ray. Okay, name the intersection of ray AB and ray BC. Now, the first thing I'm going to mention here is that when I typed this, I didn't have any way of putting the symbol, ray symbol on it, so I'm going to do that on both of those. Ray AB and ray BC, we're supposed to find the intersection where they cross. Well, I'm going to color ray AB in pink. So it starts at A and goes in the direction of B forever. And then I'm going to use a blue highlighter for the other one, ray BC. And you can see that the intersection, the part that's on both rays, is this middle segment here. So the answer here is segment AB. Okay, moving on. An angle is formed by two rays that have a common endpoint. So what we have here is this upper ray, PQ, or QP, has an endpoint of Q. And the other one is ray QR, and endpoint or starting point, those are actually synonymous in this context. So they share that point Q, and if you take those two rays together, hang on. If you take those two rays together, you end up with the following angle, like that. Okay, so how do you name an angle? Well, this is a little more complex than just naming the rays and lines. In the case of an angle, the most common way is to use three letters, ray PQR. And the thing to highlight here is that this middle letter has to be the vertex or the shared point. So you can say ray PQR, or you can say RQP, but once again, that shared point has to be the middle letter. You use three letters, one from each arm, and the middle one has to be the vertex, it's called. So Q is the vertex on this one. So this is the vertex. I'm going to label that. And if you're using 3 letters, then you're going to use one from one arm, one from another arm, and the middle letter has to be that vertex letter. And you put the little angle symbol in front. Okay. Another way is just to label the vertex if it's not confusing. There's only one angle here, so I called it angle Q, and it's obvious which angle Q is. If they provide a number down in the corner, you're going to say angle 4 or whatever number they give you. So those are the ways you name an angle, using an angle symbol in front, by the way, each time. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at here is naming the 3 angles, just more practice, naming the 3 angles that are in this diagram. All right, the smallest angle, let me show you the smallest angle here. I'll color it in blue. Okay, you could name it angle 2, probably the most convenient way. Or you can name it using 3 letters as long as you use R for the middle letter. And the other 2 letters that you use come one from each arm. So BRD or BRC. And you could even turn those letters around. For instance, BRC could be CRB. Okay, then we have a medium-sized angle, and I'll color that one in pink. And that angle, by the way, it's medium because it's open more. In other words, as you widen the angle, think of an alligator mouth opening up wider. As it opens up wider, the angle measure gets bigger. Okay, so the next one here is the medium angle, and you could call it angle 1, and that's because we have a little 1 down in that corner. And then we could say angle ARB or BRA. Now the final angle is the one that's formed. I don't know if I can do this here. Yeah, I'll try a green color. I don't know if it's going to show up very well, but it's the angle formed by the top ray and the very bottom ray. So it's the outside angle. And that larger angle, since it would be confusing to call it angle R. In fact, you can't call any of these angle R because you're not sure which of the 3 angles you're talking about when you do that. If it's ambiguous and you don't have a number in the corner, here you actually have 2 numbers in that little throat. 1 and 2, you can't use those. You have to use the 3-letter type. So it's ARD or ARC. Okay, so let me finish one more page here, and then I'll turn it over to video number 2. Okay, so angle measures. As angles get wider, and I'll see if I can illustrate that down here, okay? Well, hang on, I gotta change the settings on that line. Okay, you got one ray here. I'll in a minute. You just have to imagine the arrowheads on the end. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna grab that thing, and I'm gonna make it a smaller angle by simply closing down that alligator mouth, and larger, 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 larger. So as the angle opens up, it gets larger. And that's how you tell whether it's a bigger angle or a smaller one. Now, when we quantify it, what we do is we take a circle and we divide it into 360 little tiny slices. And so if you take a half a circle, this arc here would be 180, we call them degrees when you do that. So 360 degrees would take you all the way around a circle, and that's an arbitrary choice somebody made a long time ago. So if you do that, then halfway around, in other words, a semicircle here, would be 180 degrees. So we're first of all looking for a 70-degree angle, and I think I see one over here. It's got 70 degrees in there. Let me switch to the highlighter, make it a little easier here for you. Okay, there's 70 degrees in there, and maybe you can tell 10, 20, 30, 40, and these little marks out 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 60, 70. So you can see it goes all the way up to 70 there. and that would be the angle with a 70-degree measure there. Okay, so what angle is that? That's TMS or SMT. Okay, so let's see how I named it. SMT. Okay, a 20-degree angle. I see one way up here with 20 degrees in its mouth. And you guys tell there's 10 there and 10 there, 10 degrees and 10 degrees. That's a 20-degree angle. So that's RMS or SMR. And then a 45-degree angle. I see one on the left over there. There's 10, 20, 30, 40, 45 degrees in there. So that's angle QMP, or if you turn the letters around, you get an alternate version of that designation. And then 180 degrees, I have to get all these degree marks inside the alligator's throat, and in order to do that, he has to open his mouth completely open and make a straight line there. So 180 degrees is synonymous with a straight line graph. So PMT is the angle. And if you named it as a line, you wouldn't use all three letters. You would just say line PT. But we want to do this version here because we're talking about angles. Okay, a 90-degree angle, there's two choices. There's this one over here on the left, PMT, PMR, but there's one over here that's 90 degrees also, and that's RMT. Okay, so RMT. And then if you want to check it out here, there's an angle that's got 110 degrees, and I'll trace it for you. PMS there. It's 90 degrees to there and another 20 if you add that extra little section there. And so that takes you down to PMS. Okay, the last one here is TMQ is 135 degrees. And that angle stretches all the way from this side to this side. And if you're counting from this direction, you're going to use these inside track here. So 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 30, 40, 50, 60, there's 90, 100, 130, and an extra 5. Okay, so that would be the last one. Now, I accidentally put another 70 degree in there, but you can ignore that last one. Okay, we'll finish with this section of the video with angle classification. Anytime an angle has more than 0 degrees and less than 90, in other words, if it's between 0 and 90, it's called acute. So I'm guessing that's about a 25-degree angle there. And since 25 degrees is less than 90 and bigger than 0, this is an acute angle. Now, if you associate the word acute with the word cute, then you'll remember that it's less than. It's small and, kind of cute. Okay, then we have a right angle. A right angle is always 90 degrees, and this 90-degree corner is very common in modern society. We cut paper with 90-degree corners routinely. The corners of cabinets and tabletops are 90 degrees. We have streets that cross each other at 90 degrees. It's a very commonly used angle. Okay, then if you expand the angle, the alligator's mouth goes beyond the 90 and goes between 90 and 180. It's called obtuse. And the little remember word there is obese. In other words, it gets fat. Okay, so you have acute angles and fat angles, obese angles. And it's really acute, that's the vocabulary word, and obtuse. To be obtuse, an angle has to have more than 90 degrees but fewer than 180 degrees. And then we have a straight angle, and a straight angle is a 180-degree angle that forms a straight line. Okay, we'll pick up on the other side and in a second video here, and just finish this out here. I think I have 2 more pages to finish.